like share and subscribe because it is free. The transmission cut to static at 0347 Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Sarah Chen's final words echoed across the void. Tell Earth, they have no idea what they've just done. Then silence. The woman who had carried humanity's hopes for peaceful integration into galactic society was dead, executed before billions of watching eyes as a lesson in submission. The hegemony had ruled 47 species for 10,000 years. Their crystalline towers on Nexus Prime stretched toward alien stars, monuments to an empire built on absolute dominance. In the council chambers, beings of chitin, scales, and exotic matter gathered to witness what they believed would be another routine subjugation. Humanity was just the latest primitive species to stumble into their domain, barely worth the effort of formal contact. High Executor Zarthal had reviewed Earth's file with the same disinterest he'd shown hundreds of times before. Chemical rockets, fusion reactors, basic radio communications. The humans had taken 3 centuries to crawl from their homeworld to their nearest star. Pathetic. They produced nothing the hegemony needed, controlled no strategic resources, posed no conceivable threat. Standard protocol applied. One representative would be permitted to grovel before the council, accept tributary status, and return home with the galaxy's terms. Ambassador Chen stepped from her transport vessel with the bearing of someone who had never learned to bow. Former military, according to the intelligence reports, though what passed for warfare among humans was laughably primitive. She wore a simple black uniform bearing Earth's insignia, carried no weapons, made no demands. Her biometrics read as completely calm despite standing before beings who could incinerate her world with a thought. The ritual was always the same. The representative would approach the council dais, prostrate themselves, and formally request the honor of serving the hegemony. Tribute would be negotiated, usually a percentage of the species' total output. Military forces would be disbanded. Cultural practices deemed inappropriate would be eliminated. In exchange, the new tributary world would receive protection, trade access, and the privilege of continued existence. Chen did not prostrate herself. She stood straight, looked directly into Zarthal's compound eyes, and spoke with the measured tone of an equal addressing peers. Honorable council members, I come bearing humanity's desire for partnership and mutual cooperation. Earth offers our scientific knowledge, our cultural achievements, and our friendship to this galactic community. We seek not charity or protection, but the opportunity to contribute as equals to the prosperity of all civilized worlds. The silence that followed was absolute. No species had ever spoken to the council as equals. No representative had ever offered partnership instead of begging for mercy. Zarthal's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement or rage. Around the chamber, alien dignitaries shifted uneasily. This was not following protocol. Human, Zarthal's voice carried the weight of 10 millennia of absolute authority. You misunderstand your position. The hegemony does not negotiate with primitives. You will accept tributary status or your species will be classified as hostile and dealt with accordingly. Chen's expression never changed. With respect, Executor, humanity's position is exactly what I stated. We offer friendship to those who would be friends, partnership to those who would be partners. We kneel to no one. The death sentence was pronounced within moments. Public execution, broadcast across the galaxy as a reminder that no species, however insignificant, could defy the established order. As the energy beam disintegrated her molecular structure, Ambassador Sarah Chen smiled. Her final transmission had already been sent through channels the hegemony's intelligence services never suspected existed. On Earth, in hidden bunkers beneath major capitals, red lights began flashing. The Prometheus protocol was now active. The emergency session convened within hours of Chen's execution. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Government Assembly, her face carved from stone as she delivered the intelligence briefing. 57 world leaders watched the footage of their ambassador's death in absolute silence. When the transmission ended, the vote was instantaneous and unanimous. Every hand raised, every voice united in a single word: war. What the hegemony had dismissed as primitive technology was humanity's greatest deception. Those crude fusion drives concealed quantum fold generators capable of crossing galactic distances in days. The simple radio transmissions masked quantum entanglement networks that allowed instantaneous communication across light years. Earth's first interstellar vessel was actually the 300th ship to leave human space, its predecessors having spent 2 centuries establishing hidden colonies across 50 star systems. Humanity had learned the galaxy's most important lesson long before making contact: appear weak when you are strong. While alien species announced their presence with grand displays of power, humans had spread through space like a silent plague. Mining operations that were actually military bases. Trade vessels that carried weapons instead of cargo. Exploration missions that mapped every hegemony world, cataloged every defensive position, identified every strategic weakness. The Terran Defense Force had been preparing for this moment since humanity's first tentative steps beyond Sol. 500 million soldiers waited in hidden bases throughout the galaxy, their equipment disguised as industrial machinery. Weapons that could crack planets masqueraded as terraforming equipment. Stellar disruption devices posed as deep space observatories. Relativistic kill vehicles drifted through space labeled as asteroid mining platforms. Human military doctrine had evolved through millennia of warfare against their own species. Total war. No rules. No mercy for those who started the fight. While the hegemony had grown soft through 10,000 years of unchallenged dominance, humans had forged themselves in the crucible of constant conflict. Every major war in human history had taught them new lessons in destruction, each technological advance weaponized within decades of discovery. The hegemony's intelligence services had missed every warning sign. Ambassador Chen's biometrics showed muscle density impossible for a gravity world species, bone structure that could withstand acceleration forces that would liquefy most aliens, reaction times that registered as superhuman. The merchant vessels in Earth's trade fleet carried military-grade shielding strong enough to survive direct planetary bombardment. Human colonists demonstrated survival capabilities that defied explanation, thriving in environments that should have killed them within hours. Even the systematic mapping of hegemony space had been dismissed as primitive curiosity. Human ships had visited every major world, cataloged defensive installations, identified command structures, recruited disaffected populations. 2 centuries of preparation reduced to background noise by an empire too arrogant to recognize a threat assessment when it stared them in the face. The activation signal went out at 0400 Galactic Standard Time. Across 50 star systems, human colonies dropped their disguises. Mining equipment transformed into weapons platforms. Cargo vessels shed their false hulls to reveal battlecruisers. Deep space installations powered up systems that registered on no alien sensor array. Sleeper agents on 200 worlds began their missions. Within 6 hours of Chen's death, humanity's true fleet decloaked throughout hegemony space. Ships that shouldn't exist, weapons that violated known physics, technology that made the galaxy's most advanced civilizations look like Stone Age primitives. The message was simple and broadcast on every frequency: "You killed our ambassador. Now you learn why that was a mistake." Admiral Rodriguez stood before the tactical display showing human forces across the galaxy. Red dots marked hegemony military installations. Blue dots showed human positions. The enemy was surrounded, outgunned, and completely unprepared. She opened the channel to all human commanders and spoke the words that would echo through galactic history. "Prometheus Protocol is active. Show them what happens when you murder our diplomats. Leave none of their military intact, but remember, we are not them. Civilians are off limits. We came for justice, not genocide." The first strike commenced at 0600 Galactic Standard Time across 12 core hegemony worlds simultaneously. Nexus Prime's orbital defense grid, pride of the Empire and deemed impenetrable by 10,000 years of military doctrine, ceased to exist in 3.7 seconds. The council chambers where Ambassador Chen had been murdered became a crater of superheated glass before the emergency klaxons could even sound. High Executor Zarthal had 17 seconds to comprehend his species' fatal error before the relativistic projectile erased him and his entire command structure from existence. His final thought, transmitted through neural link to surviving hegemony forces, was a single word repeated in mounting terror: impossible. Human fleets materialized from hyperspace like avenging angels, their weapons already firing before enemy sensors registered their presence. The hegemony's vaunted navy, accumulated through millennia of conquest and tribute, transformed into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Alien commanders screamed impossible readings to their superiors. Energy signatures that broke their instruments. Weapons that fired through dimensional barriers. Ships that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. The humans fought with a precision that spoke of centuries of preparation. Every target had been selected, every weakness catalogued, every defense anticipated and countered. Relativistic projectiles turned fortified moons into debris fields. Quantum disruptors aged entire fleets to metallic dust in seconds. Biological warfare agents tailored to each species' unique physiology shut down enemy crews before they could reach escape pods. This was the Chen Protocol in action, named for the woman whose murder had triggered Galactic War. Every victory was broadcast with her image and final words, every fallen enemy ship marked with Earth's insignia. The psychological warfare proved as devastating as the physical destruction. Hegemony forces began surrendering without firing a shot, their morale shattered by reports of impossible human capabilities. The empire that had stood for 10 millennia cracked like glass under human assault. Former tributary worlds rose in rebellion, their oppressors too busy dying to maintain control. Species that had served the hegemony for centuries threw off their chains and begged to join humanity's cause. The galaxy learned what humans had known for millennia: tyranny only survives as long as the oppressed believe resistance is impossible. The hegemony's desperate attempts at retaliation revealed the depth of their strategic blindness. They deployed biological weapons against human colonies, only to discover that humanity's genetic diversity and adaptive immune systems rendered most alien pathogens harmless. They attempted scorched earth tactics, destroying their own worlds rather than lose them, but human reconstruction teams appeared within hours to repair the damage and care for civilian populations. Every strategy failed against human technological superiority and tactical flexibility. The aliens had grown complacent through unchallenged dominance, their military doctrine unchanged for centuries. Humans had spent their entire history at war with themselves, constantly innovating new methods of destruction and defense. The hegemony fought like the last war. Humans fought like the next one. Yet even in their overwhelming victory, humans demonstrated the moral superiority that separated them from their enemies. Civilian populations were protected, not slaughtered. Infrastructure was captured intact, not destroyed. Medical aid flowed to refugee camps faster than human armies advanced. The galaxy witnessed something unprecedented: conquerors who came not to enslave, but to liberate. Within 18 months, the hegemony ceased to exist as a political entity. Their core worlds lay in ruins, their fleets scattered to cosmic dust, their leadership extinct. The empire that had dominated known space for 10,000 years had been utterly annihilated by a species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians. Ambassador Sarah Chen was avenged, her death becoming the catalyst that freed countless worlds from tyranny and established humanity as the galaxy's new dominant power. Nexus Prime burned for 3 days before human reconstruction teams arrived to rebuild what they had destroyed. The crystalline towers that had symbolized 10,000 years of oppression became foundations for something unprecedented in galactic history: a government built on consent rather than conquest. The Free Species Alliance emerged from the ashes of the hegemony, with humanity as its reluctant but necessary guardians. The war crimes tribunals lasted 6 months. Surviving hegemony leadership faced justice for millennia of atrocities, their trials broadcast across every liberated world. Former overlords who had ordered Ambassador Chen's execution stood in defendant cages, begging for mercy from species they had ground beneath their boots for centuries. The galaxy watched as justice replaced vengeance, due process substituted for summary execution. A memorial service for Sarah Chen was held simultaneously on every world touched by human liberation. Her statue, carved from Earth marble and rising 300 meters above the new galactic capital, bore a simple inscription: "She died for peace, we fought for justice." Children who had never known freedom placed flowers at monuments bearing her name. Former slaves spoke her words in languages she had never heard. Humanity's role as galactic protector was codified in the Chen Doctrine. Never again would one species dominate another, never again would diplomatic immunity be violated, never again would peace offerings be met with execution. Advanced human technology flowed freely to former hegemony worlds, healing centuries of exploitation. Medical breakthroughs ended plagues that had ravaged entire populations. Terraforming assistance restored worlds strip-mined for tribute. The transformation was profound and swift. Species that had known only servitude experienced individual rights for the first time in their recorded history. Scientific inquiry, suppressed under hegemony rule, exploded across the galaxy as researchers freely shared discoveries. Artistic expression bloomed on worlds where creativity had been classified as rebellion. Trade networks replaced tribute systems, mutual benefit substituting for enforced extraction. Yet the galaxy's greatest lesson concerned humanity itself. These were not another conqueror species dressed in liberator's clothing. When offered absolute power over hundreds of worlds, humans established democratic institutions and then stepped back. When presented with tribute from grateful populations, they refused and offered aid instead. When former enemies sought punishment for their oppressors, humans insisted on fair trials and rehabilitation programs. The paradox of human nature became galactic legend. They were simultaneously the most dangerous and most benevolent species the galaxy had ever encountered. Capable of annihilating civilizations, yet dedicated to protecting the innocent. Masters of warfare who preferred diplomacy. Apex predators who chose to be shepherds. 5 years after Ambassador Chen's murder, the galaxy had achieved something unprecedented: stable peace built on justice rather than fear. Human colonies thrived openly across 500 systems, no longer hiding their capabilities. Former enemies had become humanity's strongest allies, their children learning human languages and studying Earth's history of survival against impossible odds. On the anniversary of Chen's death, now celebrated as Galactic Peace Day, representatives from every species gathered before her monument. The ceremony concluded with her final words, spoken now in unity rather than defiance: "Tell Earth, they have no idea what they've just done." The galaxy had learned. Humanity was not just another species. They were the guardians who had been waiting in the darkness, and their protection was both absolute and freely given to any who chose peace over conquest.